First of all, I want to just welcome you all to the weekly briefing. This is the time of the week we just set 30 minutes aside and continue the conversations that are happening in community, answer questions or find trends that are happening just in our industry, the work that we're doing, and give you some insights. The opportunity we had this week, the conversation that popped up this week actually is coming straight from community. And I put a little bit of spin on it because I feel like there's a conversation taking place about how to get credit for the work that you're doing, posting something out there and knowing that you can post it and getting permission from your clients to do it. But if we think about just that question one step further, and why do we want to put that work out there? What does it represent for us with our future clients? And what is it that we're looking for when we share that work? So getting to the why question, I thought I would share with you what I know to be true about early year sales and what opportunities are going to come. And does it really come from posting your past work or showing a reel? So I'm going to dive into that, give you some insights of what I've learned along the way and what some of my clients are doing out there. They're making a difference. So, but just say hello. Good to be with you all this week. Before I dive too far into this conversation, in community, you'll see that we're starting some small groups. And from the conversations we had last week about just moving the platform forward and what might be a good service or good technique of something we can do in community that we can't do in any other real format is have these small groups and have conversations. So currently, there are 4 different types of small groups that are possibly forming. And I say possibly because I just want to see what kind of interests we all have that people would participate in that. This will be a weekly mastermind conversation. And this is going along with the monthly subscriptions that some of you are paying or some of you have been interested in joining into. So this is the launch of that format. The 4 groups are those people that do live action, maybe live action only, and some of the unique problems that live action studios have. Really the idea of, you position yourself differently in live actions, your bidding and budgets come across very differently, and your profit margins feel like they're locked. So the question is how much control can we have over that profit? So I was challenged last week, hey, in 6 months, could we get to the bottom of some solutions? And that kicked off the idea of some small groups. Besides that, there is a general small group, just like general business practices. And I posted in community some of the topics I would cover, including working on your business, not in your business. And really the idea of getting yourself into a place where the business is working for you, but also some important parts of running systems and routines. So I love that. And that group, we might read a book or two to teach each other what that process is like. So looking forward to what that small group is. The other small groups that we're processing are just more regionally related. So some of you are in APAC, including Matt, who's with me, and knowing that region would be very helpful to talk to, and maybe a European time zone. So if any of those interest you, please just go into that post and comment, and we'll add you to the wait list. And as we roll this thing out at the end of the month, we'll make sure you're included. Okay, so getting started with this topic. As I said at the beginning, the conversation that is happening in community, and I would love to hear your voices in this conversation today too, is, hey, when I finish a job, I would like to post that work on social media, put it on our website, tell people we did the job. And the reason we would want to do that is to show off our work and obviously to get sales. Because many of us know that our past work is what we leverage to get our future work. And we like this idea of that we've done something really huge and dynamic, kind of qualifies us for the next projects. We don't want to hide that away from potential clients. We actually want to put that work forward and get some of that intrigue. Actually, Lewis, who just joined us, was the first person who kind of posted the question. So with that in mind, I thought, what good are these posts anyways to claim your past work? What are we really trying to prove? And what is the job of that post or that kind of work in the marketplace when it comes to sales? Especially this time of year, are there certain tactics and techniques that we're interested in doing as we put those posts out there? So Matt and I were talking kind of pre-show of the reason why. Why would somebody want to do that? What's the real purpose? And Matt, what's one of the things that we kind of talked about or that we put out there of hey, this is it makes a lot of sense, right? People want to show
Well,
off their work.
it always makes sense, but I guess the other thing that I was posing to you, and which again, if anyone has the insight of this, is what do you think clients are doing right now? Like we know that we're all sitting around watching the inbox, watching our phone, wondering when that next big job's going to come in. But what are clients doing? Are they planning the next 6 months? Are they in endless meetings right now, coming up with strategic budgets? Does helping your client look good on LinkedIn and showing the amazing stuff they've done, is that going to help them look good to their boss? Like, what do you think our clients are doing?
Yeah, I like the idea of considering that too, because think about trying to post something today, you're almost looking for an audience for that post. And if you know what your client's doing right now, we could say, is that relevant? And am I really presenting the best work at the best time to get those results? Um, I think personally, like the idea of posting another company's work or a client that you worked with's work is often a good tactic to tag them, to share with them, hey, I really enjoyed working with you and I enjoyed this project together. And I want to give you kudos. Almost want to send you a thank you note publicly that this client's amazing to work with. And I love that we were able to accomplish this together with them and give that client what they deserve, right? Don't take credit for ourselves, but to push that idea forward. So that relational touch, I think, is a very important aspect to those posts.
Totally.
Lewis, when you posted that, what is it that you were trying to accomplish? What were you thinking about when you thought, I want to post this stuff out there on LinkedIn and show off the work?
Well, excuse me. Hi, everybody. One of the things that we've had a lot of success with doing this, we always thank the client. We always make the client. I mean, we have this like set of words that we'll say stuff like humbled to have worked with our friends at TBS and stuff like that. And it's always appreciated by the client. We typically have always asked for permission. The reason I asked the community is that we've been having this issue lately where we had actually done some PR last year with a firm that we went and asked a client, hey, we are actually working with a PR firm this year. We wanted to do a press release. Can we, coordinate with your press department and do a nice release together, And they were like, yeah, totally. Sounds great. On the creative client side, they were totally up for it. And when the rubber hit the road, the press department was like, we'd really appreciate you not talking about this project publicly. And my client actually wrote me on the side and was like, this is total bullshit. I have no idea what's going on. They won't even answer my emails about why this is not to be talked about. I mean, this was like a project like women's month, like it was all good. Like there was nothing opportunistic about it. You know what I mean? Like for anybody, it was very strange. And I think the reason that we got shot down is that we were using a PR company. Like, I think if we had just said, I think that was the main reason that we had our own PR company write a release. I think they were like, nope, not going to happen.
Yeah, you basically cross the line of like, well, I don't know, too official. Are you going to say something?
Yeah, exactly. Too official. If we had just done our normal thing, in fact, our client ended up essentially posting for us. Like,
nice.
Our client posted, just had a great experience working with Pilot, blah, 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 blah. You should check out the spot, which was so nice. And we really appreciated it. But I mean, I was just curious what everybody was going through, because when we tried to do really official channels and worked with a PR firm, and the firm wasn't doing just that for us, they were doing other stuff too. I had like a series of articles that came out that they had helped us with last year, but it was just so disheartening to find the PR firms at these, firms that we work with just shut us down, so like Square.
That's fair. It is interesting to go through proper channels and then almost like to put it out there and just be genuine and just say what you usually say gets a better return. But you might end up in a better place with them posting for you. It feels like an endorsement of you more than you begging for a response.
Totally.
I like about the approach that you're going about, and what I think it speaks more in volumes is way beyond the work and the way you position your post. It sounds like your intent is very much along this line, but it's way beyond the work, right? It's not just the moving pixels. that you want to talk about. It's actually the relationship you have with that client. And I think relationship is what we're actually trying to express way more than those pixels, right? So there in the community, people are recognizing sometimes I can't use that work. I can't show that specific work. And I started thinking like, okay, but can you express relationship with that client? Can you express relationship in getting that work done, or relationship with those creatives or that artist? You can still express relationship very easily and not cross the line of those do not cross, do not post areas of your contract. And
To
if
me,
I was
I mean, to get to that point, to me, it's a win when I post something else that has nothing to do with work and clients jump in the comments and, relate to the post in one way or another.
Yeah.
That is a win for me. Like no matter how they do. I mean, obviously if they react to it at all,
Yeah.
it's good. But I mean, when they actually interact in the post, I mean, I did a series of posts last year on Mondays, like about Mondays, and I got a lot of traction on those. Like, I mean, way more than anything I've done in the past, and sometimes more than even just sharing work posts.
Yeah,
So
no, you were great, Lewis, and I remember that too. And you actually took out the second point I was going to make too, is like what's really great about social media is the dialogue that happens after you post it. To go back, just a reminder, go back and when someone likes your post or comments on the post, for you to follow up with them is a very important part of that exchange. You don't just post something out there, make them do comments and leave them hanging. That dialogue that you're showing and that personal touch that you're showing in those comments also speaks more volumes to that relationship. And I'm going to stick on relationship as, okay, Matt, did you want to say something?
Oh, because James Joyce in the chat has just been posting out something that follows on from that, saying, like the purpose of posting previous work solidifies our positioning and attracts more of the clients we want to work with and moves us away from the clients we don't want to work with. And I guess you can use that commentary you put around each piece of work to elaborate what it is people are looking for and what it was that was so special about that working relationship.
Yeah, it's a great another filter, Jamie, because this thought process of who we want to work with and who we don't want to work with really speaks more to who you are, the type of work you want to do, what your purpose is, what your vision is. That aspect of qualifying those projects or qualifying those relationships are going to be very, very important to your long-term success. And I'll say, like, to go back to the topic we're talking about, what's a really good, easy, early year win? Relationships. Right now in January, people are quiet, including your clients, and they're quiet because they're building out this year. If your only exchange with a client is, hey, when you have a project, give it to me, they're going to say, fine, when we have something, we'll call you. But in the meantime, why interact with you? Why have any exchange with you? But if you are in relationship with a client, especially one that you just finished the year with and can pull things over, this is a great moment to plant seeds that you can harvest later in this year. So one of your best early year sales tactics is to start planting those seeds and keep up with those relationships. Relational based sales is really, really important to longevity of your company. It's the formation of what fills in the bottom of that cash flow. And if you did the bingo card that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, you know that the first things you put on the bingo cards are those strong relationships you have. I see Nasia here. She's shaking her head because I kind of know some of Nasia's secrets of success, and I might be channeling those a little bit, Nasia. So if I'm, stealing your thoughts, I apologize. But I know for sure, like in your case, Nasia, you have a long-term client that you think about. I almost feel like you strategize on their behalf way early in the year, and then they know that and they depend on you to do it. So you actually lock in work before the year even starts.
I mean, I will say that, at least for my business, we worked with PR companies, never helped. Like, to be honest, like nobody cared about the press release. They cared about the client posting about what an amazing experience it was and how awesome the work was, and us having that dialogue on socials. It's about relationships, everything that I've ever done. Like, we've had a client for going on 10 years now. And, I sent him chicken soup when he had COVID last week. Nothing to do with anything other than he needed chicken soup and he lives by himself, and I'm going to send him some soup, and he knows that he can count on that. And so whenever something comes up, it's not a question of who he's going to talk to. He's never talked to anyone else in all the time. Because, and it's not even about the work that we do. If the work is great, that's awesome, but it's about sort of relationship that's been built over the years, I think. And that sort of intentional relationship and the sort of friendship. And I think that has been way more powerful than any PR company we hired and spent. And I'm looking at Jason and stupidly spent money on over the years. And even when we talk about socials, like the thought leadership and I didn't read your Monday post, but that type of traction, if you can keep up with that, the times when I have been the most sort of vocal on LinkedIn and the most honest and the most like, it's not even about the work, it's just about being a human, has been the ones that have been gotten me the most work, the most traction, and the most authentic traction. And I think that's also like what sort of set us apart a little bit. As a studio, because we're sort of known for that now, to some degree.
I love the image I have now is beyond just like throwing seeds out there to harvest later, but the way you're talking, it's almost like how a strawberry plant, is subterranean, starts moving its roots underground and pops up somewhere else. And when you have the trust of a client, especially a long-term relationship client, they're going to help you get other clients. They're going to endorse you through the channels. So, Lewis talked about a little bit of like somebody endorsing him publicly because of what the PR process was like, and the willingness to do that on his behalf is outstanding. But really this thought of like investing in other people for their success as a service-based business that you are, then your opportunity is to win over that trust for the long term and find other leads and other relationships to have out in that industry.
And one of the things that we've done, which has been pretty successful with one of our other larger clients, is we do a lot of experiential. So a lot of what we're doing is sort of putting together a reel of the thing that we did. And so we'll supply that to them, like, hey, look at this thing. Isn't it a rad? Like, and they post it because it's so cool. And that's just an extra thing that we gave them that was not part of the deliverables that we talked about. We're just like, hey, we did this big event with Dua Lipa. We're going to share our assets with you, share everything with you. And then they have all the assets they start sharing. And then we just start sharing what they're sharing. And that's been way more successful than sharing on our own. I know when it comes to like live action or animation, it's a little bit different, but finding ways to give them things to share about as just like a thank you, that also has been really helpful for us because they want to share it, or like cool pictures of behind the scenes that they wouldn't have normally otherwise, of like, or like even while you're on set or while you're in whatever building the thing, giving them the stuff to do so they start sharing it, is really valuable. And so you're sort of like strategically planting seeds with them to start sharing out that they want to share out because it's super cool. But then, you're just riding their coattails a little bit.
Well, I have a theory that like, in order to have a real relationship with somebody, there has to be 3 touch points at minimum. So a lot of our clients, we have 1 touch point, and even the client that we want to have a relationship with might be the creative director. And most of our touch points is with a producer and sometimes an agency freelance producer. So it's not even something that would, in a long-term investment, get you to or closer to that person you want to be, and have the long-term relationship with. But to have opportunities, if you're saying, of like recognizing that when working with the client, there are multiple stages of a project, and to be able to represent those in picture form or post form, even if you aren't a big social media person, but you're talking to a potential lead and talking about how you do your job, making sure it's clear that you were talking about these shifts within the project to allow that person to interact with you and you're a trustworthy partner, are all really good foundations of sales. But the key is that we have to have some of this played out. We need enough time on the runway to have that kind of sales take place. This is not the I need a project tomorrow approach. And I think many of us, we're kind of too short-term thinking in our sales process, so that the sales cycle needs to be turned over so fast that we churn and burn through people. And to be honest, we can see it in your social media. You're a little too narcissistic. You're always trying to build up some intriguing thing. You're trying to put some flashy post out there, and it's impressive in the moment, but many people like it in the next swipe and it's gone. where I think that the way LinkedIn works and Instagram works is sometimes like that algorithm is feeding people back to you that you are interacting with. So there is some, like the algorithm will tell you how good you are at developing those relationships by the feedback loop of who's coming back over and over again and who's showing up in your feed. I think that's a safe play to say, like, you should audit yourself. You should see if you're actually making progress on these platforms, to how genuine you are in your post, and not just trying to make it like, hey, look at me, look at this, check this out, our latest, whatever, and forget along the way the people that were involved or the effort it took to make that project.
I'd
And
say one
that
more thing,
leads-
like the most successful, oh, sorry.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Nancy.
I got one more question.
Yeah, no, the most,
most.
yeah, the most successful people who I follow on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is a platform that I tend to gravitate towards the most, just because that's where my buyers are going to be. They're the ones who are writing the checks, is they'll be on LinkedIn. But wherever platform you're on is like the more authentic, the more it's about the we and not about the me. Like the people who are really winning the social media game and the thought leadership game are the ones who are, they know what they're talking about. They have their buckets that they talk about, and they're doing it in ways that are incredibly authentic. And it's not about, and most of the time it's not even like looking at, it's nothing about them. It's about, they're talking about the thing that they care about. They're talking about the people in their lives. They're talking about working parent, whatever the thing is that their special sauce is. And so I think that's something RevThink, like Tim, I've worked with Tim and Jason for many years now, that you guys have done so well, is it's like about the we. Like Jason was our, he's our CFO for 6 years now, Jason. I don't even know. And
right.
Most people, unless you're me or like in the even people, our staff don't even know that he's a consultant, because he's so visible as part of the we. And I think taking that type of business model and that type of thinking and putting that into your thought leadership is about gifting other people the spotlight, making sure that they're standing up on your shoulders. All of that I think is way more impactful. And every time I've done that from a post, I've gotten thousands upon thousands of views, as opposed to like whenever I show my work, it's like 7 people look at it and a few people like it. And
right, because it's not so icky, is it? Like,
yeah.
if I say like, I'm just almost promoting a Nasia's personality that's promoting herself. I want to like something or engage in something that has deeper roots. But thanks for saying that. I know that pay it forward mentality is one that we all kind of want to kind of make things bigger, is the pay it forward mentality. So go ahead, Matt. Sorry.
I'll ask Nancy and Tim. One thing, what not to do, apart from freak out and doubt yourself. What not to do right now at this time of the year?
Yeah, so I think it's important to ask the question, as you put out there, Matt, like, what are our clients doing? And right now in the year, I would definitely avoid any thought of begging for work or making yourself look too needy. If you're gonna plant some seeds, you need to fertile that soil. And we really need to put some nutrition into these relationships. So to steal that moment, like, why poison anything right now? Now, I'm going to say I'm speaking on behalf of somebody that has a long runway. Some of you do have cash flow issues and you need to get some young wins. And I get that. That's all part of the strategy. But we wanted you to be in a position that in this season, this is the good season to be taking advantage of the long-term approach. So don't cut this thing off too soon. Don't chop that vine too soon and get the fruit too soon. It's just not going to ripen the way you want it to. Nasia, did you have one out there? I don't know if Matt threw one at you. So.
Yeah, I was just typing. I was like, my strategy is always all of January and February are just like catching up with people, wishing them Happy New Year, seeing how their New Year's was, just chit-chatting, seeing how their kids are doing, getting some nuggets of how the work and the business is doing and the health of the business, and getting some of those in that in terms of getting their frustrations in that moment.
Yeah.
And never asking for work, never never expecting anything. I will say, like,
I love that. Don't expect. That's the perfect way of expressing it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's the 17th of January. I have, 3 projects that have come in without ever asking for anything, just because I've started, all about it is like this relationship building, and it really drives people crazy because it takes a long time and it doesn't happen when you want it to happen. And things never go exactly in a time frame. And there are definitely some months, as Jason will attest to, that cash flow is very sticky and very stressful, right? But it always, I don't know, in 12 years, it always does work out in the end, right?
Yeah.
Because you're sort of exceeding that. So I will never ask for any work. I will never do anything until probably around March, when I know budgets are set and people are able to spend money again.
Yeah. And I think that bingo card that we do, like, to give yourself confidence that you can survive this season, something's going to come in Q2, Q3. You have that thing planned out. It gives you that confidence. Mac, I see your hand is raised, but before, some people have to jump off in just a couple of minutes. And before I get your question, I just want to be really practical here so that I can just give some easy tips to what to do right now in this season. So right now, we want you to develop relationships. We want you to reach out to people, at least give them thank you notes or Happy New Year's positioning or anything like that of relationships that you currently have that you want to continue going forward. Please don't be selfish in that expression. If you feel like the only reason you're doing that is because you you want something from there, hold back. Think about who you really are, what you're trying to do with your career, how you can help them, and consider that before you start writing that post, because people can read your intentions. I would also say, anybody that has the chance right now, go travel, visit people. This is the time to grab a coffee or bring a bowl of chicken soup or whatever that is that you can, to express, hey, I'm about ready to get started. And I want to hear how you are doing, client, this year. I'm curious on what the big tentpole items that you have to deal with. I'm curious about what the struggles might be within your department or your business that I can come alongside. I have to develop a listening ear to have that good relationship. Go sit down with somebody. They'll drop their guard more when they're cutting into that steak or the second glass of Cosmo or whatever. Like, there's going to be something out there that gives you a chance to develop and listen. And then lastly, if you are going to reach out, if there's an opportunity for you to post something, talk about the future of you and your relationship with them instead of just the past. So not what I just got from them, but how they are moving forward in such a great way, and you're proud of the efforts that they're making or the initiatives that they're taking, or how they've conquered AI and we still can't figure it out, or whatever that thing is that you need to say out there. But make sure that you're always future focused, because if you're future focused, they'll recognize that you can meet them in the future down the road. That's where they want to meet you up. So I just wanted to give you those 3 practical steps before some of you have to jump, because I know you have to. But Mac, I saw your hand raised. So I want to get to your question before we sign off.
Yeah, my question is in terms of post. And when I'm scheduling my post, I often find myself thinking really heavily and trying to separate the difference between, I would say, trust and truth in like scheduling post, right? And I feel like a lot of things that I read have said, oh, you have to be like super authentic, like in order for your audience to like resonate with you or talk, or just be like very vulnerable, right? But I think for me, like, for example, the other day I was going to schedule a post that said like, things that I've learned in over a decade in video production, right? And it listed all these things like, color grading, editing, shooting, whatever, the list goes on, right? And then below that, it was things I've learned in like 3 years of business. Now, as someone who is trying to gain trust with, prospects or potential clients, should I be saying 3 years of business? Like, that's the truth, but is it something that I should be putting out there as a post? So.
Yeah, that's a really good question, by the way. And I know that I've had this conversation before, at least in community through comments, and it's a little bit of a split decision of how vulnerable you should really be out there, or how true you should be, because there is a perception that you are selling confidence, and when a client wants to know that they're in good hands as you're doing it. But the thought that you're having right now, and I kind of know where you are as a business, is this thing we do deal with, which is imposter syndrome. We feel like we have to make ourselves bigger than we actually are, or more impressive than we can actually accomplish. And that will always come back to haunt us. There is no real gain in not being truthful into who you are. So if you feel like, hey, I don't think I'm ready to be so vulnerable, I want to say I'm 3 years in business, just take out those words. Just say like the beginning or something. You can still position it in a way that you are reflective backwards and moving the ball forward, without feeling like I'm being too vulnerable. But I'll say with confidence, like, I'd work with you 3 years in business. I don't care. If you're a talent and you have the skill and you have the ability to move my product forward, do I really care what year you started your LLC? No, come on, let's not be ridiculous. And you do have relationships, people that trust you. That's how you came into community. There was a person that connected us together. So those are real things you want to bank on and be true to who you are that way, right? You have the talent, you have the skill, you have the calling. Let's get it out there and moving it forward. That's what we want to see from you all the time. Who you are is amazing. Let's put that amazement out there so that people can appreciate the way we do.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, of course. Good luck to you, man. I appreciate you. Matt, anything else? I know it's running a little bit late, but we're gonna do it's actually an open conversation today for those of you who are in confab and want to join small groups. We're gonna start that in a half hour, but I just, I'm willing to take 2 more minutes if there are any more questions. Otherwise, we can wrap up this weekly briefing and pause that for the next conversation.
Nothing more from me, but I think, just like people should be pushing themselves out of themselves, getting out of your comfort zone, and clients are humans and they're probably desperate to chat to someone creative and interesting right now to go have a coffee.
Yeah. I love Matt's perspective because he played both sides, right? You are for the client and the vendor sometimes. And like, wait a second, I'm still my human being that was, no matter what decision points I have to make, I still have to do it from a personal point of view. So
if I can get out of a
for
management meeting and talk to a filmmaker for half an hour, that's great. Golden.
Totally. Especially if you bring me the bagels, I'll have you over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for joining us this week on the weekly briefing. If you have any more comments, please feel free to put those into the post or start a new post in community. That's what it's there for. Keep the conversations going. Thank you for all who commented today. Conversation going. Nasia, Lewis, Mac, thanks for how you guys participated. And Matt, thanks for being my eyes and ears as we're keeping this thing moving forward. I'll say this. I think you all know this. I appreciate you. I love this industry very much, and I appreciate the opportunity to serve you. And we at RevThink exist so you can thrive in your business, in your life, in your career. Let us know any way we can do that. We're here for you. Thank you very much for joining us weekly briefing, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.